as a young girl, I never really had any astounding aspirations for my life, besides becoming a princess, of course. Now, I was happy just enjoying my childhood, not worrying about the future, as I'm sure we all were. And then I found my way into school, and I started having some of my friends tell me that they wanted to be a teacher, or maybe a lawyer or a scientist. And all of a sudden, I started feeling quite insecure about my undecided future. So one day I sat myself down and I said, Deb, your goal in life is going to be to become a doctor. Now, my decision was probably based on the fact that I knew becoming a doctor would pay really well, but also because I had this idea that doctors were fairly well respected. And so I set about buying body books, and I even had a stethoscope, all the while preparing myself for my days of becoming a doctor. And then I found my way into high school, and this whole new concept was introduced to me. All of a sudden, the ATAR became incredibly important, especially because of my chosen career path. In fact, these were the 4 numbers that I personally was aiming for. And as I looked at these numbers, I started to tell myself, Deb, you've got to shape your life around this. I had people telling me left, right, and centre that my VCE would determine what course I would get into, and eventually my career, and eventually my whole future, and it freaked me out. So when it came time to selecting my electives, I chose the ones that I believed were best fitting to my goal of becoming a doctor. However, by the time I got to around last year, so the beginning of year 11, I found myself extremely confused. I had begun questioning whether I actually enjoyed the subjects that I had chosen, or even if I still wanted to be a doctor. What I realised was that I had allowed myself to become so consumed by the idea that these numbers would be my life, and that I had to achieve something reputable, that the whole time I had ignored who I truly was. I'd taken what I believed the world's standard to be and tried to shove myself into it, regardless of these burning desires within my heart to do different things. For example, throughout the years, I discovered my love of music, particularly playing flute and singing. What I didn't realise was what these things had been teaching me all along. Things like patience, dedication, and appreciation of talent. Things I hadn't told myself to learn, but that had simply come as a byproduct of doing what I loved. I had unconsciously taught myself things that I believe are far more important than any algebra class that maybe I didn't do so well in. On top of that, my love of meeting new people taught me the art of conversation and how to be a good listener. Public speaking taught me precision and courage. Volunteering taught me empathy and compassion. And so 12 months ago, when I found myself incredibly confused with my subjects, overwhelmed by these 4 numbers and questioning my whole life, I made probably the biggest decision I believe I have ever made. I won't allow a number to define who I am or who I can become. The ATAR, although it's still important to me, is no longer the boundary of my life. I can be confident in who I am and the fact that that won't change according to that ATAR number. So the thing about the ATAR is that it's a standardised test. It's an abbreviation of scores, and it has a really tricky formula. That's not it, but I assume it looks something like that. The ATAR simply abbreviates the final year of your schooling into 4 numbers. Who you are, however, cannot be standardised. There is no test that exists that can accurately determine your courage, your humour, your teamwork skills, your determination, or any other number of attributes that any one of you may possess. The fact is that you are a unique entity. The things that you can achieve with your life should never have a number to limit it. Now, honestly speaking, you've probably heard a lot of what I'm saying before, and some of you may leave here and never think of this again. But one thing I can guarantee is that over the next few years of your life, you will be faced with certain challenges. I believe that as a fresh Year 12 student, I'm still coming up to challenges that I don't know how to deal with. But there have been 2 main things that I have learned that have allowed me to face these challenges and come through them remaining true to myself. The first of those is to understand your emotions. Now, this sounds like a pretty basic concept. However, unfortunately, it's so often overlooked. The basis of it is that if you can differentiate between what makes you feel awesome and what makes you feel crap, then you're on the right track. Take me, for example. If I hadn't had my massive epiphany, I'd be slaving away at subjects like chemistry and methods and physics. Subjects which some of you here might actually enjoy, but personally, they make me cringe. Instead, I'm doing music and global politics, subjects which some of you might actually worry about, but where in fact I'm thriving. The trick is to be true to yourself. Take a realistic look at your life and determine whether you are doing the things that you enjoy and that will benefit you the most in the long run. Now, unfortunately, sometimes it's inescapable. We all have to do things that we'd rather not have to do. However, if the rest of your life is full of the things that you do enjoy, then those few things that maybe you'd rather not have to do become much more bearable. There's this guy, Goleman, who has a theory about emotional intelligence, which is what I've just been talking about. And he says that the key to success and true happiness lies in understanding your emotions and the emotions of those around you. Now, the second and probably the most vital thing that I believe I've learned is something I've already mentioned, and that is to learn from what you love. That's what it says there. You can't really see. You would all be amazed by what you have learnt by simply doing the things that you naturally enjoy. That being said, it's astounding to see how many people our age are trying to hide who they are because they don't believe it fits with this standard that they see as more socially acceptable. Myself and so many others think of this standard as a box. I chose cats because everyone likes cats, right? If you think about a box, being inside one, you're closed in from all angles. There's barely enough room to move around, and it's uncomfortable. As humans, we are inherently designed not to fit inside boxes. Our lives yearn for diversity, discovery, and challenge. So if you're sitting out there telling yourself that you need to fit inside society's box, or even that you need to be like someone else, then I can honestly say that you're missing out. The world is looking for people who aren't afraid to be themselves. Your life is waiting for you, and you don't have to hide away. Now, all of us here are incredibly fortunate to live in a country like Australia, where education is respected and there aren't rules dictating between who can and can't go to school, which unfortunately isn't the case in some less fortunate countries. The issue that we as young people face in our society is allowing ourselves to become consumed by this idea that we can only truly succeed in life if we are among the elite few who can score really well on our final year of schooling. To me, this is simply outdated and untrue. What matters the most is that we are able to find ourselves, regardless of a score on a test or maybe even the school that you've gone to. You need to believe in who you are. You need to believe in what you have discovered about yourself. And most of all, you need to believe in where your strengths can take you. Just to close today, I want to leave you with a quote that has personally influenced me and fueled me to where I am today. Where you come from can never determine where you go. It simply determines where you start. Thank you.